farmers are being killed. They happen to be white.
When asked by reporters why this group is being welcomed, while others from conflict zones like Sudan and the Congo are turned away, President Trump responded with this.
It's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about, but it's a terrible thing that's taking place, and farmers are being killed. They happen to be white, but whether they're white or black makes no difference to me, but white farmers are being brutally killed, and their land is being confiscated in South Africa.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the MeidasTouch Network. The thing that really sets apart Donald Trump's hypocrisy is its shamelessness. We have had plenty of racist presidents. Listen to the Nixon tapes if you don't believe me. But at least in the modern era, presidents have done their best to conceal their prejudices. Donald Trump wears them on his sleeve. You might recall that he emerged as a public figure in New York City by falsely accusing Black and Latino boys, the Central Park Five, of rape and murder, calling for their execution, and refusing to recant that slander even after they were exonerated. For anyone who has been paying attention, the racism that pervades his administration and its policies has been apparent since day one. In fact, the very first policy he enacted in his first term was his so-called Muslim ban. But I'm not sure his racism gets any more shameless than this: fast-tracking asylum applications for white South Africans with invented claims of genocide, while other asylum seekers who don't look like them languish. I asked Kris Goldsmith to unpack this for us. Here's our conversation. Welcome to the Ken Harbaugh Show. I've got Kris Goldsmith back. He's the founder of Veterans Fighting Fascism and Task Force Butler, which track and hold accountable extremists across the country and around the world occasionally. Kris, what do you make of this rapid processing of the refugee status and asylum claims for these white Afrikaners? Look, I'm not going to comment on their individual situations because I don't know, and surely on a case-by-case basis, there might be compelling stories, but it marks a significant departure from the Trump administration's treatment of any refugee or asylum seeker who doesn't look like that.
Yeah, well, let me just say, as a veteran who is intimately involved in the Afghan evac efforts, I am not surprised, but incredibly frustrated, because the rhetoric that Donald Trump and the Trump-Musk administration have been using about all refugees has been horrific. We have seen them turn on our Afghan allies who have made it out of a country that our military, that our government completely destroyed, and under the Trump administration came up with an idea that we were just going to give the country back to the Taliban. And that is what happened. And all of the Afghan allies that we worked with, that all of our colleagues and friends worked with over the course of 2 decades, have been left high and dry by the Trump administration. And it is clearly obvious, I think, to anyone who's paying attention that this is a white supremacy thing. But what I don't think that most people understand is like how deep this goes and how Elon Musk plays into this. Elon Musk was born in South Africa. He is a son of apartheid. His family has grown out of this, racist system where Black people who were native to that place were treated as subhuman. And Elon Musk, throughout his adult life, has continued to treat people of color like that. And he has continued to talk about people of color like that. When South Africa is very specifically the place that they're taking refugees from, this is a nod to the worst of the worst white supremacists. And again, going back to Elon Musk, the dog whistles that he does in public that most people don't understand. I think that anyone who follows Elon Musk's Twitter account will see that he frequently retweets or interacts with a a Twitter account called Autism Capital. Now, most people would make the assumption there's been some coverage about Elon saying that he has a diagnosis of autism. Most people looking at that might think, oh, this is, an autism awareness organization. It is not that. It is when someone like Elon Musk or any of his followers are talking about autism, it is a very coded reference to Dylan Roof. Dylan Roof, who walked into a black church and murdered people. Dylan Roof called himself the last Rhodesian. Rhodesia is a country that doesn't exist anymore. It is now Zimbabwe. And there is a deep and disgusting subculture that spans across international boundaries, where white Americans and people of European descent around the world have kind of created this mysticism about Rhodesia and the fall of white supremacy in the African continent. So I know that is a lot of really complex sounding things, but people need to recognize that one of the most powerful people in the world, and the most powerful person in the world, whatever order you want to put Trump and Musk in, they are working to implement white supremacist policy at an international level. That is what just happened this week.
Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone vulnerable. It's easier than ever to find personal information about people online. More and more partisans and nefarious actors will find this data and use it to target political rivals, civil servants, and even outspoken citizens posting their opinions online. With Delete Me, you can protect your personal privacy or the privacy of your business from doxing attacks before sensitive information can be exploited. As a person who exists publicly online, especially as someone who shares a lot of provocative opinions, I am very aware of safety and security. And unfortunately, all this data hanging out on the internet can have actual consequences in the real world. So take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me, now at a special discount for our listeners. Today, get 20% off your Delete Me plan by texting Ken to 64,000. The only way to get 20% off is to text KEN to 64000. That's Ken to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply.
We have come so far and sacrificed so much to make real the promise that is America. But fear and hate are on the rise, and those who sow division claim a mantle they do not deserve. They do not speak for us. For the millions of American men who believe that strength is found in compassion, that patriotism is defending the least among us. At Valor Media, we know that loving one's country means holding it accountable. We reject the sunshine patriots and the false prophets of masculinity. We are Navy SEALs, Marines, Rangers, fighter pilots, and more. We are Valor Media. Find us, follow us, join us at valormedianetwork.com.
How is this being talked about on the white supremacist channels that you monitor? Because it's pretty obvious to me that this dog and pony show welcoming these refugees wasn't meant for a mass audience. In fact, it looks like the administration was hoping that it would kind of fly under the radar. But it is more than a dog whistle for the communities you follow and track. It is a bullhorn, and I'm just wondering how the neo-Nazi groups, the white supremacist groups, are talking about the reception of these refugees from South Africa.
Neo-Nazi and white supremacist groups had largely given up on Donald Trump after 2020. After he lost that election, after January 6th, they were pretty disillusioned with Donald Trump. They considered him a useful tool for the time because Donald Trump and the MAGA movement brought more people into and really normalized white supremacy nationwide. And they were, glad about that. But they were like, okay, Donald Trump's time has passed. We have seen a complete 180 on that. White supremacist organizations, self-described Nazis, are ecstatic. They are, they believe that this country is living through an experience that they could only dream of. With the normalization of white supremacist policy, importing white so-called refugees from South Africa, like this is the wildest dreams of the most committed, most violent, and most vile white supremacists in this country and internationally.
Has that tempered any of the accelerationist impulses? And I'm asking because I have to believe that there are elements within the extremist movement that say, you know what, we're already most of the way there. We don't need to blow up the whole country. He's giving us what we want. Can you explain, first of all, accelerationism, and then unpack that a little bit for us?
Yeah, so accelerationism is not a new idea. It is something that has been a theme throughout white supremacist history. The Confederates were trying to destroy these United States in order to create an explicitly and forever white supremacist country. So, right, accelerationism is accelerating the downfall of our country, of our democracy, of our system of laws. So the accelerationists have seen Donald Trump as a tool of acceleration, accelerating us collectively towards that downfall.
That was part one of my interview with Kris Goldsmith. Check out part two later this week, where Kris unpacks accelerationism, white nationalism, and what genocide actually means. See you soon.
New Meidas merch drop! Check out the latest pro-democracy sticker packs, t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, and more, all at store.meidastouch.com.